Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today, also, many of our associates are otherwise busy. They are either traveling or they are other work-related projects, and also, they are otherwise not able to attend this meeting today. But we hope that next week they'll be able to join us. Today, just again, I just want to briefly mention a few things continuing from last week. Uh, one of the advanced aspects right now that I myself are considering is about error signal. I think I talked briefly the last time, and then there will be articles that will be coming in. But based on my previous research uh, and the publications, peer-reviewed papers, uh, one of the things that came up with is the time matrix. So the time, as we know, is not one-dimensional, or just space-time being four-dimensional. We have to consider higher dimensions, and that's been recognized by many scientists. And one of the aspects that I talked about is Christian's iSpace model, but that's kind of the manifold. But I think that is more to do with virtual time, the manifold dimensions. That Christopher has done about geometry of space, and that is, we have done extensive work and some proof aspects that shows that the space actually will be four-dimensional, like toroidal shape. That many people have alluded to that. Even Einstein has mentioned about that topology of space. And there are many proofs now for mathematical and some experimental proofs that point to the fact that space may be more than three-dimensional retrieval. That indeed you have to consider the fourth dimension in terms of toroid when space kind of converges and becomes 4D onto itself. Now, string theory and other manifold theories or theories, as well as other supersymmetry, all of that, consider dimensions of very high dimensions, or maybe 10 or even higher. But we think that myself and Christian and Christopher recently debating about it thinks that the total dimension should be 10. So if you have 10 dimensions and you have 4 dimensions of space, my independently, my research on the time aspects, the time matrix that's derived from what I call is perfect general uh, mathematical transformations that shows that the universe is a black box. That complete algorithm that I developed, and from which I can do inverse transform to come up with the matrix of time, shows that at least we have 4 different times, and these times are like Einstein alluded to, general theories, the proper time, real time. Especially when you can consider backward physics and things like that, these things automatically come into the picture, like the event horizon, things like that. So the time actually, in our system versus with when that's considering when horizon further into black hole, time actually is quite different. The clock ticks differently. So that's where proper time, like real time, really originally came out. But I think my earlier theory that shows that there may be micro black holes, which means we have to consider at the quantum or subquantum levels. So again, this theory automatically comes from the astrophysical thing into quantum level. So we have to consider again proper time in real time there for micro black holes. But also there is 0 point feed. So we have, the 0 point feed itself may not show up time. And we mentioned that in our research with Emmanouil, uh, that we have to consider about superluminous phase. And this is Christian Wolff and Christopher O'Neill also, along with John Hodge, Wen Zhang, and then presently our Manuel Malaver and my discontinuum physics papers with Emmanouil Taylor, all of them point to the fact that we have to consider faster than speed of light. That's superluminous phase. My project with Emmanouil also goes to understanding this multi-phase, and I in some of the peer-reviewed papers recently, I have mentioned about how the phases could be superluminous, where you don't have any particular structure, and the vacuum is the level at which the speed of light is held constant. And this process is activated by something called the Hot PDP mechanism. It's a clocking mechanism. And I talked about the presence of monopores and also partons or antiparticles. They are like electron-like, positron-like. And then you have the north monopore, south monopore. So they all come together randomly. They arrange themselves, and I have shown how it can arrange themselves by various schematics as well as theoretical calculations. So they create something called clocking mechanism, and this is the start of the presence of the particles. So the particles are specific finite size. And that's where the discontinuum length that comes, that has improved by my papers with Emmanouil Taylor about discontinuum physics, that there has to be a finite small space. And this space is about 10 to the power minus 26 meters of calculation. And that comes from the fact that the smallest time, possibly Planck time, not Planck space, but Planck time, which is 10 to the power, about 10 to the power minus 34 seconds. And then you have the speed of light that is held constant at the vacuum when the vacuum phase forms. And this is iterative in the sense that this particular formation of the particles, that is the speed of light times the Planck time, is about 10 to the minus 26 meters. And when this critical particle or nuclei of the particle is formed, that holds the speed of light. So the speed of light cannot go faster than what we know. The speed of light in vacuum is about a little over 10 to the power 8 meters per second. So the vacuum phase is formed, and that holds the speed of light constant. Then you have sublunar phase. So it's like a general high level super condensate. And now we have three phases, and so we have a flow from the superlunar through vacuum to sublunar level, at which the particles start to slow down. So the time starts coming in really the sublunar level. It could be sense rotation, like clockwise, anti-clockwise rotations in superlunar number because of the presence of the monopoles. The monopoles are acting randomly, but they start coming together because, of course, the attraction, and this produces magnetic field, moving magnetic fields that creates electric gradients. So we have vortex action as well as the gradient field. So the vortex field and the gradient field together create magnetic field that is vorticing, and then you have the electric gradient, electric field as a gradient, and that creates one type of particles. And believe that the other way around with the electric, vortexing, electric field vortexing, and the magnetic field gradient, that creates actually the light, the photons. So the other aspect, the complementary I talked about earlier with the magnetic field vortexing, and electric field should constitute vibrations or phonons, and that are the real matter particles. So when we consider from Maxwell equation and so forth, and we advance it with the Helmholtz decomposition, aspects, we come to the conclusion that subluminal level then that is has less than speed of light. The maximum speed that can achieve is the speed of light, and that conforms with the general theory of relativity. But we have two other phases that we have considered. That vacuum space is considered by all scientists to have the speed of light that was measured by Michelson Morley experiments. And then, but there are a lot of variations and new improvements of that. But nevertheless, we believe that vacuum speed of light is constant, but there are particles popping in and out, and this particular theory that we're developing will explain why the particle pop out, because the superluminal number is going to this subluminal number as condensate, and then from subluminal phase, it falls back. So you have evaporation condensation processes of these phases. So when it comes back into the superluminal level, you have the whole circuitry forming, like parking mechanism, and now we have the situation where the whole time aspects come to picture, and the time aspects, there are many aspects depending on the level. At the very quantum level, like I mentioned, Planck time. So I call in general quantum time, which is different from proper time and real time. And there is also the global time and the local time that I mentioned with the time matrix that I developed. And that's again is depending on the system. So we have various cells, right, of the formation of these particles from both PDB mechanism, and they have their own clocks, right? You can attach clock to them, and so they start ticking differently. So they have information coming in from the global system, but that clock creates the time, and then that time flows from that particular point to the global level or outside of that system, individual system. So we have, I mentioned this in the last meeting as well. We have this flow, and then this communication among these clocks that forms what we call particles, and later on the particles delayed to form matter, both the organic and inorganic matter, through the system of the elements that we know from chemistry, the periodic table. So from the periodic table of the particles, we have periodic table of the elements that eventually forms higher level nuclei that become like neutrons that become unstable, and they start creating the radioactive decays through formation isotopes. Again, I mentioned about how these isotopes could be explained from the formation of the particles and a build-up of that to create a fusion reactions, and then fission reaction that creates the radioactive decay. So these processes, then we are seeing the holistic aspects of the whole theory. But the main aspect that comes up is about the dimension of time itself. So we have now, I already mentioned about the six different times that's possible. That is the proper time, the real time, the global time, the local time, and also the quantum time. And there is one more called the astrophysical time. And I mentioned, and also proved mathematically, at least for now, that you have to consider the astrophysical time, how they come together, and you have the space and the time not existing in all the phases. So the sense gives the field sense, the field sense to space and time depending on this level. So the quantum level, we have only, it gives the sense to only the space, and astrophysical level also the same aspect. So it doesn't give, the time is only implicit. That's shown from my transformation, right? Implicit in quantum level as for in astrophysical time. But mesoscopic level, the sense gives field effect to both time and space. So that's why we experience all the different manifestations of space and time, as well as the sense, which is rotation. So I mentioned earlier that in my earlier book, Absolute Genesis, that there will be 5 dimensions, and that corresponds to Klein-Gordon type of analysis about 5-dimensional space, and it's an extension of Einstein's 4-dimensional space-time, but the sense being the 5th dimension. But these are static aspects that we discuss more with the Christian book and Christopher O'Neill, that they only create a static space. So from symmetry, you can show that you have to have double that to create dynamic space-time, and we know space-time, space is dynamic in overall sense. So we can call it space, but then spatial temporal topology is the general term we can use, will be the total, will be the 10 dimensions. So you have 4 dimensions of space and the 6 dimensions of time, but the 6 dimensions of time are only virtual. So you have only mature manifold of 6 dimensions time. And this is the one that is going to be analyzed more in detail, and eventually hopefully we can prove it experimentally as well, how this virtual time suddenly comes into picture. And many other aspects of psychology or metaphysics or other aspects, spiritual, even spiritual aspects, everything can be explained on this sudden appearance of the manifold of time, the 6th dimension, the 4-fold manifold. So they appear and disappear. So this is almost like Brahman, and also we call it Om in the metaphysical terms from Indian mythology, and the understanding of what it is all about, the whole universe. So we can explain how the universe can suddenly form, because these processes that goes on the quantum physical level, such as the hot PDP mechanism, they create the clocks, and that creates matter. And then so you have kind of the creation process going on, and then also eventually when the energy is dependent, and when there is interaction between particles, then that creates the entropy, for the entropy aspects. It creates heat and other aspects. So you have all the 5 elements of eventually creating the fire, the fire. Then you have the ether, probably maybe the starting point. Then you have the fire. Then the formations of reaction, all these processes going on, fusion, reaction. You have water. Then you have earth, formation of earth, and the air, and in between air. So they all come together, all the elements, and then we see the sky, the stars away from us, and there, we explain that these has horizon, and right now the theory is that from telescopic measurements as well, that these stars also go through the creation and destructive process, the formation of black holes, and some believe that the original universe was formed from a supermassive black hole, but those theories could be modified. So I have the modified Newtonian dynamics, which shows that there may not be a singularity per se. But if you explain correctly, the dark matter, the dark energy, black hole, and all this could be explained in the context of this creation destruction process, or the supercondensate processes, the multi-phase of superluminar, luminar, and subluminar levels. So these are going on. That makes the whole universe very dynamic. So that is the main crux of this present theory, and then both mathematical and experimental proofs are developing as we speak, but it will take a few years for us to really understand all of them. But what I came up with is the importance of error signal. And in the earlier, like few centuries ago, people were quite interested in the diffusion of gases, right? And that's what the initial processes were before Galileo came up with the idea of gravity and the Newtonian uh, dynamics that describes all of the processes of the nature with inertial gravitational constant. So the gravity has become the big gas, but we still have to explain that gravitons and things like that that Emmanouil and ourselves are trying to come up with a consistent theory that explains that. But what I found from one of the forgotten aspects is about error signals. So essentially, most of the matter, and as we know, the cycles of carbon dioxide, oxygen cycle. So there are a lot of cycles, right? Life cycles, and also creation destructive cycles themselves with the involves energy and entropy. So you have environment and entities form, and they grow, they form critical nuclei, they grow, and then once they grow beyond certain size, they be converted or destroy them. And then we have fragmentation that forms into smaller particles, like we have the sand and the sea, so on and so forth. So essentially, putting all this together in the proper perspective, we see that the cycle does exist in the universe, and that's something we have to consider. So the clocking mechanism explains how that cycle comes into picture, and then initial physics about the diffusion of gases with Graham's law and things like that, and also the error function solutions with the fixed diffusion law says that we have to consider something called error function, and also error function complementary, which involves space and time. So it's x over through square root of diffusion of coefficient times the time. So that comes in the denominator square root aspect. So when you consider that, and then you manipulate that, actually I have shown, and in subsequent papers, I will be publishing that, how that can be converted into understanding of information, because you can manipulate the equation to consider the speed of light, the time, or speed of light and space. And that shows clearly how these timelines move, the last few decades or so. And that makes sense because there is how that's a reset of patterns. I explained briefly in the last week's video, that this error signal analysis does explain that. And there will be more coming in, but I want to only briefly mention today, and we will take upon the question of error signal, spatial, temporal, gravity, and topology further as we move along. So I want to close this session today. Thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing you, and appreciate your feedback. And I have a brief description of that. Also, the text aspect of the video. So this recorded video, then I will end it for today, and we will resume next week. We all hope to see you next week and have a wonderful week. So we hope that all the scientists will be able to join next week. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon, and have a great time. So we will ensure that we continue with this recording of the video to update what's going on every week, and so that way we are in abreast of developments. But there are a lot of research to be done. The project work, like I mentioned, with all the scientists here, as well as other international scientists and peer review paper publications, they all bring about hopefully a unification of physics in terms of how they put them together, understand that we know now from string theory and other theory of everything, as well as standard model, that they all come together as a weak, strong, nuclear, and gravity and also electromagnetism. So we hope to put them together in time to universe.